At 18, in my hands was a whole universe of possibilities. But in my head was only a foggy emptiness. Adults said 18 is the crossroads of destiny. But when I stood there were no signs, no directions. One night, at 1 a.m., bloodshot eyes, I typed into Google, what should I do with my life at 18? The whole world was running forward like a marathon, while I stood still, tied up by dozens of invisible ropes of anxiety, not afraid of bad grades, not afraid of failing college, but afraid of a life where I don't know what I'm living for. If you've ever been lost in that dark zone, this isn't an article. It's a real conversation. I used to believe if I wrote one wrong line on the application form, it meant signing a life sentence. Sitting in front of the application form, my hands shook like electric shocks. My eyes blurred in fear of writing the wrong major. Adults said, choosing a major means choosing your whole life. The pressure felt like being forced to sign a marriage contract with destiny. And then, I really did choose wrong. Wrong from the very first choice. But strangely, I still breathed, still lived, still moved on. The truth is, your major isn't handcuffs. It's just a stop, not the final station. I've met someone who studied design gives worked in HR, studied education gives opened a music studio, studied IT gives drove Grab, then launched a clean food startup. Detours were never meaningless. Every wrong turn became a new puzzle piece. Don't choose your major like choosing a wife. Think of it as a road trip. If it doesn't feel right, take a turn. If it's boring, change the route. A wrong path is just a curve, refusing to move forward. That's the cliff. I felt like just a grey shadow in a gallery full of dazzling oil paintings. Everywhere I looked, people were shining. One sang beautifully, one coded like a genius. One at 17 spoke English fluently, and me, my special skills, mid-tier gaming and cooking instant noodles without spilling. That's it. That feeling of being useless, not loud, but it gnaws away at your confidence every day. Blogging gives rejected. Making videos gives barely a few dozen views. Applying as a collaborator gives accepted, but only for odd jobs. Failure after failure. But I kept going. Skills don't fall from the sky. They're born from ignorance at the start, and the guts to dive in. No one spawns in a game at max level. Everyone starts at level 0. Some find what they love in a year. Some take 10. Some never find a big passion, but gather enough small hobbies and still live a worthy life. Being versatile, it may seem blurry, but in this era, it's actually a superpower. If you think you're nothing special, don't panic. You're not useless. You're just in the middle of downloading your upgrade. At 18, I ran into an invisible marathon. Everyone had a success checklist, and me, empty-handed. What was on that checklist? IELTS 8.0 second language academic clubs portfolio scholarship. Early startup, all ticks from others, none from me. I felt I lost even before the start. One night, I cried, not out of jealousy, but because I felt so small on someone else's stage of lights.
No.
In that moment, I stuck a failure label on my forehead. But exhaustion saved me. It made me stop, and ask, why am I carrying someone else's checklist? I threw away society's checklist, took a blank sheet, wrote a plan just for myself. Not glamorous, but fitting. No comparison, but peace. Success has no formula. Plans don't have to be perfect. It only needs one thing, to make you smile and feel, I'm enough. I once scribbled my life plan, detailed by quarter, by KPI, by backup plan. Sounded no different from a CEO planning $1 million company. 6 months later, that plan turned to ashes. A family crisis struck. Every KPI became a joke. I went mad. I was devastated. I was disappointed. Not because I lost the plan, but because I once believed plan equals life value. And then I realized a plan isn't a finished movie script. It's a living sketch, one that can be redrawn anytime. Life is a maze, not a highway. I learned to plan by heartbeat. Every 90 days gives right. Live, fix, redraw. No longer handcuffed by the old plan. Ironically, when I stopped obsessing over the perfect plan, I truly lived with direction. Because direction isn't on paper. It's in the heart. If your plan is broken, don't panic. It's not a sign of failure. It's proof you're growing up. I once thought being lost at 18 was a shameful failure. But the more I walked, the more I realized being lost is a wake-up signal. It means you're brave enough to pause and ask, how do I really want to live? And only those who ask can find the path made for them. Age 18 isn't a deadline for success. It's just the starting point to learn how to ask the right questions. No need to be great. No need to be glamorous. Just be real. If you're lost, remember, you're not a loser. You're just writing the first draft of your life book. It may be messy. It may need to be torn up and rewritten many times. But every line is yours, and no one else can write it for you.
Oh my God! Wow!